the second part of our trip across Turkey, we explore the ruins of ancient Troy, soak up some Aegean sun, and find ourselves amongst the legacy of the Ottoman Empire. To top it off, we'll see how Turkey continues to embrace its past and future to this day, on this episode of Travelogue. So, I've just arrived from Istanbul. I've had a great time there, but from here I'm going to take my route across the blue Aegean Sea. I don't really know what to expect. I had a great time back in Istanbul. Hopefully I will do here as well, but I can't wait to get on the road, so let's get on to the next leg of our journey. From here we head south, across the Dardanelles Strait and towards the fabled city of Troy. It's a long drive from Istanbul, about 300 kilometers, so make sure to bring good company. We took along our new guide Ensar, who delighted us with stories of the Aegean Sea. Our first stop, Troy. Who hasn't heard about the famous wooden horse? Of course, the one here isn't the original, but that's not going to stop us from having a look. Into the belly of the beast I go. According to legend, 30 Greek soldiers hid in the horse ambushed the Trojans. Today, the story is a goldmine for Hollywood rewrites. However, Troy had always been thought of as a fictional place. That was until an amateur archaeologist named Heinrich Schliemann found a cache of treasure buried deep in the ground. Schliemann found Priam's treasure here, and it was from that point that the legend of Troy became a reality, and this was the start of the city of Troy. The most extraordinary of the treasures was a set of diadems that supposedly belonged to Helen of Troy. A daughter of Zeus, Helen was a woman of incomparable beauty. She was married to Menelaus, king of Sparta. When she was abducted by Paris, the prince of Troy, the whole of Greece rose up to bring her back. The ensuing Trojan War lasted for 10 years. Although it's now thought that the siege of Troy took place in the 13th century, archaeologists believe that Troy had actually been around 1700 years earlier. The earliest Trojans built these megarons, mud brick buildings that could only be accessed via a hole in the roof. This one is about 5,000 years old, which means it was built a little after the first pyramids in ancient Egypt. An awe-inspiring reminder of just how far back Turkey's history goes. We've soaked in enough Trojan history, and now it's on to Bozcaada to soak in some Aegean sun. It's a very different style of Turkey now. We're close to the Aegean Sea, and we're actually passing through a town that's got quite a lot of gypsy people, but immediately you can see that everything is different here. Life seems more simple and placid here. That is, until we meet these guys. Loud music and a fantastically dressed miniature sultan. So, what's the occasion? He is going to be circumcised. Yeah, I wouldn't be smiling either. Now this is what I'm talking about. Sandy beaches, the Aegean Sea, and over there, our ferry ride to the bucolic island of Bozcaada. It's going to be an awesome time. Although most of the Aegean islands belong to Greece, Bozcaada and one other are considered Turkish. During the summer, the Aegean Islands see a huge influx of primarily European tourists, but thankfully, Bozcaada never gets too crowded. Turkish blue. You know, when they first saw the Aegean, they didn't know what to describe it. So they made up a name, they made up a word just for it. The word is turquoise. As the mainland pulled away, I gazed out at this endless expanse of turquoise and suddenly realised that all those romantic stereotypes of the Aegean Sea were true. You almost want this moment to last forever, so it's a pity that the ferry ride is only 40 minutes short. We're greeted by this wedding procession as soon as we get off, and it almost feels like the saying, "Welcome, enjoy your stay, and forget about the world outside of Bozcaada." People come here for half a day and end up wanting to stay for eternity. Bozcaada is not only beautiful, it's also famous for its wine. A third of this charming island is covered in vineyards, and virtually every family here has a plot to call their own.
This one. You make your own wine.
Welcome.
By the way, this is Faruk, the owner of this little hotel.
Thank you. Teşekkür.
And he's just making his own wine here. Well, let me try.
So I noticed there is actually no label on this bottle. Oh, that is good. That's a lot more fancier than normal stuff. Right.
And as you see, it's really rich in the color, and it's really fruity taste as well.
Why are the grapes here so different?
Well, the climate is really suitable for the grapes, and as you see, it's quite windy. Breeze goes all the time, which is really important for the grapes as well.
Not being much of a wine connoisseur, Enzo reliably informs me that these grapes are of the Shiraz variety. Cheers.
Cheers. It's a nice smell.
Oh, God. It's a completely different feeling, this. It's not the same when you're sitting in a guy's own vineyard, drinking his own homemade wine, and sampling this Aegean Sea wind just going through your hair. It's a completely different feeling. It's absolutely perfect. Cheers, man.
Cheers.
Cheers. Reluctantly, we leave the haven of Bozcaada and head south to Assos. About a 2-hour drive away, Assos is a real gem on the Aegean coast. Founded some 3,000 years ago, its greatest claim to fame is that it was once home to Aristotle. Occupying the best spot in town is the ruined temple of Athena, the goddess of wisdom. Aristotle would often come here and ponder ideas that would later shape Western philosophy. I may not be a philosopher, but the view at Assos really makes you wonder about the true meaning of happiness. A perfect end to our trip around the Aegean. This time, it's a much longer drive. We're heading east towards the Black Sea, to the town of Safranbolu. Designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site for its Ottoman houses, Safranbolu fits snugly between gentle sloping valleys. It's so peaceful here, it feels like something out of a movie. Our hotel, though, sits right at the top of one of Safranbolu's many hills.
Mr. Ensar, this is our hotel, eh?
Yes, it is.
They could have built a lift or something.
Well,
Should we go inside?
yeah, please.
Oh. Merhaba.
Despite being a bit out of the way, our hotel was fantastic for getting an authentic Ottoman experience, with, of course, all the modern amenities.
There we go.
There are plenty of period houses turned hotels to choose from, but mine gave me a spectacular view across the old town. Safranbolu is definitely a walking town, and you'll want to slowly savour every detail of its Ottoman mansions. Many of them were built 200 to 300 years ago by the town inhabitants who become wealthy from trading saffron. Their former abodes are well preserved, and I've asked Ensar to take me inside one of them.
Whoa! Merhaba!
They've even preserved the art of opening doors. Although I was most impressed with the living room.
Merhaba. Whoa, man, this is a very nice place.
Some of the things in Finland. Some of them.
Why do they actually have a swimming pool in the middle of the house?
Eskiden içmek amaçlı olduğu için.
She told me it kept the room cool, could be used in case of fire, and also helped dampen any noise. The house has been passed down through the family for 8 generations, having been built by her forebears who were timber merchants. Their pictures are on the wall, along with their own paintings.
Yes, how much?
Oh, for this house?
This house and the land together.
So she painted all of these herself.
Yes,
Very
she
good.
did.
We'll see this in an auction in Sotheby's very soon.
Yeah, we can arrange it. I'm sure it would be great.
Yeah.
Auction in this house.
So, a 220-year-old house, a swimming pool in the middle of it, and a very, very talented lady who I'm sure is a Turkish prodigy. Very impressive family.
Time to go for a walk.
Do you want to take Turkish delights?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, yes. There are different types of delights.
I can take any one.
Saffron.
Can I take 2?
Oh, of course,
Yeah?
yes, of
I'll
course.
take this one and this one.
Turkish delights. Our delights are very delicious and fresh.
It's very delightful.
Yeah, and we produce ourselves.
Being an old trading town, there's plenty to see in the markets.
This is saffron, I guess, eh?
Yes, saffron.
So saffron, of course, from the famous Safranbolu. This is the stuff that gave this town its name. Oh, very strong stuff, eh?
Saffron has a huge range of uses, from tea flavouring to medicines and fabric dyes. Like true tradesmen, language is never a problem. In the centre of town is a 17th century caravanserai. It's now been turned into an upmarket hotel, but those with the cash to spare should definitely spend a night here for the experience. As for me, I'm heading to the nearby hammam to get a real Turkish bath. The way it works is you take your kit off, lie down on a steaming hot stone, and just sweat like a pig for 30 minutes. Contrary to what people might think, getting a rub down from a hairy, pot-bellied man named Abdullah was actually a very refreshing experience. But don't take my word for it.
Did you guys just have a bath in there?
Yeah, we did.
How was it?
So what's been the best part of this bath then?
Like the really hot stone in the middle that you just lay down on at the end.
It was different. Like I've never experienced anything like it before.
Thank you.
Have a nice one.
Have a good day.
Like I said, refreshing. We're on the road once again, and this time we're heading further east to Trabzon. It's an important port town by the Black Sea, dispatching goods to Georgia, Armenia and further east. But that's not the reason we're visiting it.
We're getting close to Samila Monastery now, and I was told earlier that it's actually 1,200 metres above sea level, and even down here you can't see the hills, but these hills are only probably 500 metres or so, but they get snowfall in winter, so there might be a bit of a risk of avalanche. You never know.
Okay, so avalanches aren't too common in summer, but the weather does change quite dramatically. Sunny one minute, pouring down the next. A bit like England, really. Even so, the scenery only gets more and more beautiful the higher we climb. We're very lucky to have run into this guy. He's playing a kamancha, a kind of violin, and belongs to the Laz ethnic group that's native to this part of the Black Sea.
Not really wearing mountain climbing suitable shoes or sandals. Ooh. But this is pretty nice, man. It's not snowing, but you know, we got a bit of rain. Whew.
But what a view, hey! After a 2.5 hour climb, you're treated to this spectacular complex emerging out of sheer rock.
Man, this place is absolutely incredible. This is the Samela Monastery, and it was built in the 4th century by just 2 monks, and they carved this entire place out of the side of a mountain. And over there should be where they used to live, the old monastery residency. And behind me is the old church itself, with all of these absolutely gorgeous frescoes on the walls, which apparently date back to the 14th century. And it's absolutely incredible. They're all scenes from the Bible. It's like you've just walked into the grottos at Dunhuang or something.
The earliest frescoes date back to the 9th century, and although many of the lower ones have been damaged, the ones above are still in good shape. You might even recognise some of them, such as the expulsion of Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden. The most impressive fresco, however, is on the inside of the chapel's dome, a beautiful mural of the Virgin Mary. Legend has it that the priests founded the monastery here after discovering an icon of her in a cave nearby. Still, only 1/3 of the monastery is open to the public.
Wow, this is pretty awesome.
I wonder what this might have been. Maybe it could have been a storage room or something. Or if that wall had been knocked down, maybe it could have been a hidden passage. Life and intrigue in the 4th century. How mystifying.
From Semele Monastery, our next and final destination in Turkey is Ankara. It became the new capital of the country after the Republic of Turkey was formed, and nowhere is the presence of the founding father more noticeable. Mustafa Kemal, affectionately known as Ataturk, was the first president of Turkey and also a national hero. His mausoleum is spectacular, not to mention spotless. It's built in the style of the Hittites, rulers of an ancient Anatolian civilization that once rivaled the Egyptians in power. Inside, the mausoleum bears an uncanny resemblance to Sun Yat-sen's tomb, an indication perhaps of both countries' respect for the fathers of their nations. The archive material in the adjacent museum will walk you through Ataturk's transformation from military officer to reformer to first president of Turkey. Ankara's Museum of Anatolian Civilizations is the best place to go to learn about Turkey's long and somewhat confusing history. I was most impressed with its collection of reliefs from the Hittite era, the civilization that dominated Anatolia in the 2nd millennium BC. You'll come across many statuettes of stags in the museum. These were symbols of a male Hittite god, and many were attached to staves for ceremonial purposes. Earlier still were clay statues of a mother goddess, and worship of her in Anatolia started as early as 7000 BC. But again, it was the Hittite collection that caught my eye. The Hittites were forerunners of the Iron Age, and for a while were serious rivals to the mighty Egyptians. Among these clay cuneiform tablets, you can actually find a letter of correspondence between the Queen of the Hittites and Ramesses the Great of Egypt. If all the history's doing your head in, the town's Byzantine citadel is only 5 minutes walk up the hill, and its lofty location is sure to clear your mind.
Oh, that's an interesting castle. They've just gone and recycled a bunch of stones from other places. I can see that's Greek over there, and I think this one is as well. But I think probably the mason was illiterate or something. They probably needed stronger glasses.
This castle once protected its people and their livelihoods, but instead of falling into disuse, a fantastic thing has happened. Smart cafes and restaurants have moved in, reinvigorating this old citadel and making it once more the source of its people's livelihoods. Just like the layers of Hagia Sophia, Turkey is constantly incorporating its past into its present. Its enchanting stories are never locked up in history books, but instead live on in the everyday lives of the people that inhabit this wonderful country.
Turkey has really grown on me. It's a kaleidoscope of fascinating history, incredible tales, amazing food, and probably the friendliest people I've ever met. I started this trip in the ancient capital of Istanbul, Constantinople, and I end it now in the modern metropolis of Ankara. I'm Turan, this has been Travelogue, and I hope you've enjoyed Turkey just as much as I have.